All righty, there we go. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen here. Again, if anybody has any questions, there's a chat function in the lower right. You can throw that in the chat, or you can just shout it out. Feel free to unmute yourself, shout it out at any time. But like I said, let me share my screen here, and we will get started. So the main page that you see when you first log in, the default page you'll come to, is what we call the dashboard page. And it's mostly used for navigation. It just kind of links to the other areas of the screen. So we're looking at, the track logo would be the same as the profile tab, season management, which is a lot what we're going to talk about tonight, race management as well. And then if you ever do a website through us, we have website management tools also. As we scroll down the dashboard page, there's a couple of things that I'll point out to you. First thing is the app favorites. This shows you how many folks have favorited favorited your track or series in the My Race Pass app. The advantage for fans or drivers in doing so is they'll actually get push notifications on their device when your races start, when your fantasy groups go live, when you do a news article, if there's a cancellation, those types of things will send push notifications. And then it also just makes it easier for folks to navigate to your facility without having to go to the day-by-day filters. The other things you'll see on the screen are your current subscription information, as well as a sandbox. On every dashboard page, there's a sandbox, which is a siloed environment. That's a direct copy of all of your live environment data, but it just exists outside of the live features. So you can, if you want to see what happens when you click a button, or practice a different lineup scheme, or go through a demo race night, something like that, use the sandbox. It's there. You have that ability at any time. From here, though, I'm going to start with the profile tab, profile information. So when you click the profile tab, the first thing you'll be able to see is you can update your images. There's a profile image and a header image. Typically, I recommend the profile image to be, a track logo or something that clearly uniquely identifies your facility. But yeah, you can do whatever you want for a profile image and header image. The only thing I'll tell you, profile image has to be square. Works best, as a perfectly square image. From there, though, you can also edit your profile information. Takes you to this profile tab, and this is the information about your facility that will show in the app. So track basics, length, composition, shape, all that kind of stuff. Address information. If you want a physical address, mailing address, or any contact information to show in the app for folks, you can do it that way. There's location data here as well. So you can use this map to pinpoint your track where it's at. And that way folks in the app will be able to get directions, Google Maps directions to your facility. Makes it easier to find you. And then there's an amenities section. Track features is what we call it. I like to think of it as amenities. For fans, families, or folks in the pits, what do you offer? Do you have camping? Do you allow coolers? Do you have ATMs? Do you sell fuel? Do you sell tires? Those types of things. So a lot of this page you'll probably look at once, and unless you physically pick the racetrack up and move it somewhere else, it won't change. But this track features section, I really advise to come in at least once a year. Make sure it's still accurate. As you guys make changes or improvements or upgrades to your facility, some of these things might need to be updated. So I would recommend you do that. Last thing on this screen is aliases. Aliases is basically different names for your racetrack. So if your racetrack has ever been known by a different name, put that name in as an alias. And that way, if somebody searches for the wrong name, it still brings them to the right place. This comes into play as well for we've got one down the street from us that was NASCAR sanctioned I-80 Speedway. So their I-80 with no hyphen was their track name. So they put in an alias for I-80 with no space, and they put in an alias with I-80, just so if anybody searches for the name at any point, it still brings them to that profile. So some of the things in that profile tab, again, pretty straightforward stuff there. Next thing here is billing. Billing shows you what you would expect a billing page to show you. You can update your card on file. You can view your current subscription information, view all of your previous invoices. And then there's also an area where you can add all access accounts in the app. So just a little bit more information on the app to kind of explain the all access accounts. The app itself is free. So with the free version of the app, anybody will be able to see your track profile, your schedule, your results, your point standings, all of those things. On a race night, they can view all of the entries, all of the lineups, all the results, all the driver results historically, basically everything you want to see in the app. The add-ons come at $8 a year for live timing and scoring. So all of the other stuff is free, but the actual live timing and scoring for a user, this is not passed to the track for payment, but for the actual app user, $8 a year, you can watch live timing and scoring. And then for a small monthly fee, I think it's like $5 a month, you can play fantasy racing as well. So those are the all access features. And you can add the all access features here for either 2, 4, or 6 of your employees based off of what type of plan you've got. So that's, a pretty valuable tool as well. User section is the next thing I'll show you. And this is where you can start to add administrator privileges for anybody who needs them. There's no limit to the number of administrators that can exist on a profile. So this is where you add your permissions. There's 3 different types of permissions. 2 of them really only affect ticketing. One of them is the administrators themselves. So anybody who needs access to be able to add a schedule, calculate lineups, add entries, basically do any of this, view any of this, you'll add as an administrator. And again, to add user permissions, simple, click the add permissions button, check the box for the type of permission that you want them to have, first, last name, and email address, simple stuff. The box office users is if you're using online tickets through My Race Pass, we have a point of sale or front gate box office program. This would be adding permissions for that. And then for the ticket redemption users, it's just the apps, the ticket scanner in the app. So somebody brings a ticket that they bought online to the front gate. You want to be able to turn on the in-app scanner for one of your employees. That's the ticket redemption users. So those 2 things really only come into play with online tickets. But the administrator section, site administrator users, that's where you'll go to add permissions for all of your employees. That's pretty much everything in the profile tab. Again, a lot of this stuff is super straightforward. Permissions is a holdover from a bygone era. There's really nothing in the permissions tab, and Clear Cache is a developer tool, so you won't see that. But otherwise, that's the that's the profile tab. If at any point any of you guys have any questions, unmute, shout them out, or you can put that in the chat as well, and we'll get to those. So I'm going to jump forward here to season management. So on the left, there's season management, race management, news, tickets. There's all of these things. So these 2 days, today and tomorrow, we're going to focus on season management and race management. Today, season management. This is preparing for your season. This is adding the classes that you're going to run, including NASCAR sanctioned classes. This is building a schedule with those classes. This is viewing your point standings, adding a preseason registration, all of those types of things. So we'll just kind of go through these tabs one by one here. First off, the overview tab. This is just snapshot information of things that you've got in other places. So you can see your upcoming events, your recent events, and pending registrations, all those types of things. Easy stuff. So I'll jump to config. Config is the first area in which you'll start customizing your new season. So first off, you can see in the upper left, I've got 2023, your favorite track season selected here. So you guys will start with creating a new season. You'll create 2023. Now, if you want to put in historical information in here, we got a lot of tracks that want to do that. You can add past seasons to your heart's desire. I think All-Star Circuit of Champions just got done with a 30-year project of adding all of their winners. All of their historical records are in My Race Pass now, which is crazy. What's great to see. It's really cool. So that's something that you can do at your leisure. But we're going to start with just 23. So create a 23 season. And then you'll see there are a couple of different sections here. Season tracks will by default be your racetrack if you're a track. If you're a series, this is where you'll add all the tracks that you're going to be running. But I think you guys are just racetracks, so this will just be your track. Season series then is the first thing that'll make a difference for you. This is where you're going to add any of the series, traveling series, that are going to be coming to your racetrack throughout the course of the year. You can add classes too, but I think it's more efficient to add the series first, because at that the class associated with that series will automatically be added to your class list as well. So if I'm going to add Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series as a series, Dirt Super Late Models will be automatically added as a class. So just it kind of killed 2 birds with 1 stone that way. And then once you've got all the series added that you want, which adding a series is simple, add series, you can filter to all series, and it's just a string of text. So the Cars Tour, just typing it in that way, those types of things. You got the series added. Once your series is added, then it's time to add your classes. And so anything that exists outside of those series. There's two different ways to add classes. One is if your classes are sanctioned by NASCAR, and then if you have any classes that are unsanctioned that you're going to run throughout the year. So starting with the sanctioned classes. So sanctioned classes will be its own option. And then there will be an option for NASCAR. We got a ton of sanctioning bodies in here. NASCAR is one of them. Select NASCAR and hit next. Now, we've gone through this list of classes with NASCAR, and they kind of pointed out to us, and we gathered a lot of information based off the classes that you run about which classes need to be in the sanctioned class list. So your classes should be here, or something similar to your classes should be here. Now, we can rename any of this stuff if we need to, but you pick the one that's closest to what you're running. And then, like, if I choose asphalt stock cars and you've got a class sponsor, so it's the Bob's Garage stock cars, or you call them something else like street stocks or pony stocks or whatever, add them that way. We can rename them to whatever you need them to be. But this class is going to be, important to be able to get this right. Now, we already found one that we need to add. There is a figure 8 track that runs a NASCAR sanctioned figure 8s. So we've got to add figure 8 stuff. So if you come across a situation like that where you say, hey, I'm running this unique class, it's not in this list, reach out to us. Send me an email, support@myracepass.com, and we can make that happen for you. I see we got a couple of can't find a series Carolina Pro late models. Okay. Then what I would have you do is we'll go ahead and add series. Carolina Pro Late Model Series, it's not in there. There's a create new option, and that basically sends me a message to create that series. So then I'll go and do the research, figure out what they are, who they are, what they run, all that kind of stuff. Create the series and let you know when it's been created. We might run into that from time to time. There's a few NASCAR tracks that are kind of in different areas than what we're used to, that we've done business in before. So that might happen from time to time, but we can get those created pretty easy. And again, what I mentioned, we can change the name of the class. And then in terms of renaming a class, I've got a bunch of classes added. There's a settings wheel on every tab of season management. You can manage your classes there and rename the class with the class name override there. So instead of stock cars, MRP stock cars, instead of late models, MRP late models, that type of thing. So that exists there in the settings wheel. Perfect. So once you've got your series added, then you've got your classes added. If you have any unsanctioned classes, instead of choosing sanctioned classes, choose all classes. And then you can just pick the type of racing that it is. So, for instance, wing sprint cars, and then pick the type of class that it is, whatever type of wing sprint cars you're going to run. And then you can add them that way. So, you can make that happen as well. But once you got that stuff done, the series added, the classes added, next step is creating schedules and adding events to those schedules. So I want to really make sure that the nomenclature that we have is clearly understood here. I mentioned that you're going to add a 23 season earlier. A season is a calendar year, whereas a schedule is basically just a run of events that are one points calculation. So if you've got multiple points calculations going on at the same time, that would be a reason to have multiple schedules. That's fairly rare for individual tracks. I think like one example that I'm aware of is there's a track in Michigan. I forget the name. It might be Corrigan Oil. It might be something like that. But they've got their regular 20, 25 race schedule. And then they have 6 special events for their super late models. And those 6 special events earn regular track points, but then are also their own points calculation as well, just for that Big 6 series, I think they call it. So that would be a situation where you have multiple schedules. Doesn't come into play for a lot of tracks, but it does at times. And so you can have that as well. So you can have multiple schedules. Then once you've got a schedule created, adding events within a schedule is extremely simple. So I'll go ahead and add events. I'll create an event for the 9th. Now you can select multiple dates on this calendar if you want to. Actually, I'll do that. I'll select 2 dates here and then hit next. And then all of the classes that you have all of the classes that you had added to the config tab will be the options that you have to choose from here. So I'll just choose stock cars and sport compacts for this event. Name your event, add any detailed information about the event, and then you can put in your times. When do pits open, when do gates open, those types of things. So I'll go ahead and put some information in here. And we'll start at 7:30 and good. So I've added my classes, added my times, added a name for my event. Add and next brings me to event number 2 that I'm creating. You'll see that the time information and the classes that I selected are sticky. So I can edit any of this stuff if it changes on a week-to-week basis. But at this point, really, if your classes are the same on a week-to-week basis, we're looking at basically just add and next, add and next, add and next until you've added your entire schedule. So pretty straightforward there. It really doesn't take long to add. We did one for track in in Arkansas that had about 40 events on their schedule this year, and it took 3 to 5 minutes to add all those events. So it not a complicated process. We can get those added for you that way. From there, okay, so now I've got my classes added. I've created a schedule, added a schedule. Next thing I want to show you is our registrations area. Registrations is a way to gather driver information before the season starts or before an event. So I know a lot of places in the country, they think, showing up at the back gate, being entered into an event, that's a registration. We have that work just a little bit different. Registrations is basically just sending in your information, and then the process of being put into an event to compete on race day is entries, we call it. So registrations is what we're looking at here, and drivers will send you, their name, their contact information, their address. If there's a car owner, all that stuff for the car owner. If there's an emergency contact, all that stuff for the emergency contact. Their car number, transponder number. They register on a per class basis. There's some other things in there. I think like jacket size is in there for like if you want to do champions jackets or whatever. So those types of things exist in our registrations area. One thing that we do not track is social security number or tax ID number. As a cloud-based program, I'm not tracking that in the program. So that's something that you'd have to get in a different way. We do have a 1099 report process, though, which you can export all of the information you need, like how much money they made as long as more than $600, their address, who the payee was for a driver and owner, all that stuff into an Excel sheet. And then you just apply the social security numbers to the competitors in the Excel sheet, and you can take it to your tax office that way. But that's one thing we don't gather through this process. If I go to edit a registration, some of the items in the registration, you can charge for registration if you'd like. So if you have some kind of membership fee or license fee at your track or series, you can charge that way. We send all that money directly to a PayPal account. It's a flow through. We don't keep any of the fee. If you're charging $100 to register, they're paying $100. We're applying that money immediately when they register, like same minute, to your PayPal account. We don't take any of that $100 at all. You can also charge more or less for a late fee or for an additional price on a per class basis. So if you want to have an extra $20 if it's after a certain date, or if my 410 sprint cars are $200 and my sport compacts and stock cars are only $100, an additional $100 I can put in there. Those types of things. You can also add downloads to your registrations. So anything that you put in this download section for a form will be attached to the confirmation email that the driver gets when they register. So you want to put a W-9 in here. You want to put a minor release form in here, whatever you want. Immediately when the driver registers, they'll get that confirmation email, and those forms will be sent to them. So they'll have them in their hands when they register for any forms that are turned in outside of the program. When a driver registers, there's actually a confirmation process. You'll go in here and you'll confirm their registration. I've got 2 that are confirmed already. So when you confirm their registration, you'll assign them a default number if they have one. You'll assign them a default transponder number if they have one. If they put in any owner data, you'll assign them default owner information, again, if they have one. And then you'll also be able to, when you confirm them, you'll also be able to associate that with a driver profile, basically. And this is what ends up showing up after that registration form. So it shows the requested numbers, the number you assign to them, all their address information. I put competitor as owner, all that stuff. And then a lot of folks will actually bring this form to the back gate on opening night, have the driver fill in social security or tax ID number, have them sign it, and then keep this as the registration form throughout the year. So that way you've got all the information you need from them registering online, plus their social security number here. You don't have to go through and try to find all that information. And then one other thing that you can do is when you're approving their registration, you can check a box, and actually it's an additional info. Check a box for has all forms. So if you do have any of those forms in the download section, check this has all forms box. When you go to enter them into an event, you'll be able to verify A, if they registered, and B, if they've turned their forms in. So, just a little bit of extra verification when they enter, so you can tell them, hey, you haven't registered on my race pass yet, blah, 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 whatever. Do that and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of tools in our registration area. One other tool in our registration area that comes into play on race night is you can actually have a license check if you're on the partner plan. And what that will do is it will automatically either A, apply points if they've registered, or B, not apply points for that driver if they don't have a license, if they haven't registered. So if they require a license or a membership with your racetrack to earn championship points, you can use our registration process to do that. And then also when they register, they can mark themselves as a rookie. If you approve that, then the program will also generate rookie points for them if you have that custom championship turned on. So a lot of tools in there. And yes, Bridget, you can have a registration on an event-specific basis. So you can have either a year-long registration, an event-specific registration, or there is a general registration built in here as well. I usually have that for things like a pit party or a banquet or just anything that they need to RSVP to. So there's a couple of different registration options there. From there, I'll move ahead to points. The points page shows you what you would expect a points page to show you. All of the drivers in your point standing, the number of events, the features, the wins, the top fives, top tens, all that kind of stuff. This earnings column off to the right is not publicly available anywhere, so nobody will ever see this earnings information. But otherwise, the events, features, wins, top fives, points, all that kind of stuff, all that stuff will be listed in app, or if you do a website through us on the website, basically right when your races are over. If you want to audit this list on a per driver basis, driver comes to you and says, hey, this isn't accurate. You can click on the name of any driver and you can see basically, okay, they finished 9th. They got 60 points, $220. You can audit that list on a driver specific basis and also edit that for each driver. Or if you scroll down the page, you'll see all of the events included in that point standing. So I can click on any event and then I can audit that list on an event-specific basis for all the drivers who competed. If you ever need to verify or look or change or whatever, you can do all that stuff. And then at the bottom is our championship settings. That's where the advanced championship comes into play. Things like throwing out their worst 2 nights or only keeping their top however many nights, or a seniors-only age-specific division, or point multiplier type stuff like that. So anytime you have a custom championship, we can get that set up here on the screen for you. Next tab is payments. I'll talk a little bit about payments here, but payments really flows through well with race night stuff. So I'll get into more in depth with the race night. But this payment screen on a per class basis, and for each event, you'll be able to see all of the purse payouts on this screen. So you can click on any of the payment groups. You can print checks from this screen. You can print a report that allows for drivers to sign for their checks. You can print mailing labels, and you can send all of your financial data to QuickBooks if you use QuickBooks to track that stuff. There's an import there. So again, I'll talk about this in a little bit more in depth when we get to that point tomorrow. But just be aware that you can do some of those things in that payment screen. And then the last thing I'll show you here in season management is fantasy. Fantasy racing exists independently of any action that you take. So based off your entry list, we'll split all the drivers into groups of 2 or 3. That happens automatically. Fans will go in and be able to make picks. you'll be able to accumulate points when your races go checkered flag. As soon as you put the finishing order in My Race Pass, race goes checkered flag. Points will accumulate for these folks, and you'll see winners for these folks as you go along. What you can do to augment that experience, and what you can do in this screen, is you can create custom leaderboards. So by default, every class that you run will have its own leaderboard for a season-long basis, and then it will have an all-class combined one. But if you want to have a custom leaderboard for a 3-race weekend or for 1 month out of the year or whatever, you can create custom leaderboards, and then you can give away prizes. So you have a marketing partner. H&H Mobile Home wants to give a free mobile home detail to somebody. You can give that away as a fantasy prize, and pique somebody's interest. I'll tell you, one of the things that we do at a track that I race at, or that I announce at, excuse me, I don't race. Dear Lord, that would be bad for all the other drivers if I raced. But what I announce at is that we'll go buy a VP Racing fuel jug, a yellow fuel jug. We'll have all of our A-main starters sign it for our biggest races of the year, and we'll make that our fantasy prize. You wouldn't believe the reaction that we get from fans. It's the talk of the midway on some of those multi-day events is, I finished here in fantasy last night, I'm here overall, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you would not think it's true, but it is. The fans get excited about that kind of thing. And I'll tell you, I'm 30 years old. People a little younger than me, maybe even my age, they're going to be on their phones at the races anyway. It's just a reality of the generation. So do you want them interacting with your event, making fantasy picks, being able to go to our lineup screen in the app and seeing where all their fantasy guys are starting, being able to go to results and seeing where all they finished, interacting with your track and your facility in that way? Or do you want them on Facebook looking at where their friends are camping this weekend, figuring, hey, maybe I should do that next weekend? I'd rather have them interacting with your event. Fantasy is a tool that you have at your disposal to allow your fans to do that in that way. The last thing on this screen is suspension management. We don't have suspensions built out for individual racetracks at this point. We have it for sanctioning bodies. So NASCAR could put a suspension in here if necessary, but I don't have a way for individual tracks to do that at this time. And really, that's season management. That's, building a schedule, adding your classes, all registrations, all that kind of stuff. So that's really what I have planned to show you here, in this session, is just the season management stuff. I will tell you, in season management, there are 2 options in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. There's a reports option, which is not super robust in season management. When we get into managing a race day, there are a lot of reports to choose from. And if you click all reports, you'll be able to go through all of them. So there's not a lot of season management reports, but settings is valuable. Couple of things in settings that you'll see. You'll see a lineup settings area where you can search through all of the lineups that we have that exist and choose which ones are going to apply to your track to make it easier to find them on race day. Points and pay schemes is super important for race night. You can actually put your championship nightly point structure in here, and then your same thing for payouts, your nightly payout structures in here. As many as you want. You can have it per class. You can have multiple per class based on car count, whatever you want to do. So put your point structure, put your pay structure in here before the race. So that way at the end of the race night, when you're calculating your points and pay, the only thing you'll have to do is choose what scheme you want to apply and your points and pay will be done. Now, this came up as a question previously, so I want to answer it here. You can have your own unique track-specific point scheme and apply that point scheme at the end of a race night, and it will not affect NASCAR points. That is all an automated process. You complete your races, you apply your track points, and then automatically, no work from you, from NASCAR, from anybody, the results will get pushed to NASCAR's sanction management program. Their national point scheme will then get applied to those results. So their points will be updated automatically based off of your results, but you'll still be able to apply track-specific, unique point schemes for your track points for all of your classes. The other things that you'll see up in the settings wheel is a manage classes area, which I showed you. That is where you can rename your classes. So those types of things live there. There is a manage drivers section, which takes you to our driver list, where if you want to, you can change their default car number, their default transponder number. This isn't the most efficient way to do that. You do that in the entry screen on race night a little bit more efficiently, but you can do it at your leisure during the week as well. And then there's a contact list area and a registration list, messages area. So I'll show you the registration messages. You can actually send a custom thank you message in an email. I don't have anything built in here. So when a driver registers, send them a custom thank you message when they register. And then the contact list is where you can go to manage driver information and owner information. So like I said, when they register, they send you all of this stuff. What you can do here is you can search through all of that information. So I've got an owner profile and a driver profile, and then you can view the contact information for address, phone number, emergency, all that kind of stuff, and edit if need be. So a couple of things that you can do in that screen. Yeah, and that's season management. That's season management in a nutshell. So tomorrow we'll go through race night stuff, entries, lineups, connecting to live timing and scoring like Orbits or Westhold, results, and applying the points and pay, and that. So that was a quick look at season management. The goal of this was for tracks who race in the coming weeks before we get into the full webinar season in March, to be able to get an inside look. See, 4-race playoff for late model championship after the points reset. Yes, and I can say definitively yes, because Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series is doing something similar, so we got to play around with it a little bit, and I kind of devised a way to do that, yes. So at that point, it's kind of up to you on if everyone else is still earning points or if only those 4 are earning points. But what we'll do in that case is we will have, if only those 4 are earning points, what I would tell you is to put in a point scheme of all zeros, just manual entry stuff, and only apply points for those 4 drivers, and make that into a new season, or a new schedule, I mean. Got your regular schedule that they earn points in all year long, and then you would have your playoff schedule. Add your late model events to that playoff schedule, only add points for those 4 drivers, so you can go in the app and you can see regular season points, you can see playoff points, and they both exist there. And I love that idea. Honestly, that would be really interesting come end of the year time. Kevin Pierce will be happy. I don't know who he is, but I'm glad he'll be happy. That's a good deal. Perfect. If anybody has any other questions, I'll stick around for a little while longer. Oh, Hickory. I knew that. We talked to Hickory at the car show. It was my colleague, Chris Krug, was there, along with, I think, our digital advertising guy, Jim Sweener. And I talked to Hickory, I think, a couple years in a row now. So that's, yes, thank you for bringing that up to me. But if you find after this that you have any questions, support@myracepass.com, and I'll put that into the chat so you can copy and paste if needed. But support@myracepass.com is where you can email us. I always say to email the support box instead of me individually, because like next week, for example, I'll be traveling in Daytona for the RPM show. The week after that, I'll be in Knoxville, Tennessee for the Outside Groove show. It's hard for me to get to emails at that point. So if you email support, any of us can see it, any of us can grab it, and we can get back to you as soon as possible, even if I'm gone. Again, this is recorded. This will be on YouTube in the coming days, so you can go back and review. We have another session either tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening for race management. And again, I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your evening to be a part of this. Welcome you to My Race Pass, to what we call #Team MRP. You'll see that every once in a while. And hopefully this is a good and positive thing for all involved. Until then, I guess I'll take one final word for questions before I stop recording.
Austin, I got a question.
Sure.
Our limited division doesn't run under NASCAR sanction. Will this score the same on your system as it would? I mean, was this completely integrated with NASCAR, or can we have a non-NASCAR NASCAR event at the same time?
Oh yeah, you can have multiple classes, one of them being a NASCAR sanctioned and one of them not being NASCAR sanctioned. And actually for you, It's just a matter of adding the correct class in the config tab and when you're creating your schedule. So if you add a NASCAR sanctioned class along with the class that's not NASCAR sanctioned side by side, when it comes to race night, it won't look any different for you. And only the class that you pick that is NASCAR sanctioned in that config tab, that will be the only class that the results get pushed to NASCAR. So that's all automated, and you can run those two classes side by side really with no issue.
Okay, and they also they ran a Paramount sponsorship, and they do one of those 10 races during the season where they get extra points or special their own points program through those races. And you said those would run a separate schedule also?
Is that NASCAR applying those special points, or you guys applying those special points?
No, that's the non-NASCAR division. So it's us.
Yeah, no, they can be a part of the same schedule. If you have the same class earning points in two different ways, that's two different schedules. But otherwise, those sanctioned classes and unsanctioned classes can live in the same schedule. Really, no problem.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got.
Cool. Well, appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for taking the time, and more than likely we'll see you tomorrow.